Head into the papers now, see what the headlines are across Nigeria. And let's look at what the headlines are right now. Daily Trust is where we start from. Daily Trust says APC governors back Obaseki for second term. Meet Tinubu in Lagos, and Oshobole keeps mum. You find that on the front page of the Daily Trust. Now, Daily Times is next, and he says, will Nigeria legalize cannabis? Medical cannabis market worth $3.7 billion annually, and it's illegal to possess cannabis for now. The NDLEA, saddled with the responsibility of regulating and monitoring the system, is saying this. And religious leaders weary of drug abuse and side effects. All that on the front page of the Daily Times. Now, Blueprint newspaper is next. Now, Nigerians Speak. Enough of lockdown. It has outlived its usefulness. Open worship centers, cleric tells federal government, and lift lockdown completely. This is a group saying this. This can't last forever. NLC saying this, and await presidential speech today. Decisions lie with states. The federal government is saying this. All right, from there, let's go to the Leadership newspaper. Nigerians brace up for reopening of business. This is what you see on the front page of the Leadership newspaper, with multiple riders there and taking the next phase of lockdown to states. And the federal government is saying the states own what the next phase will look like and the shape it will take. From there, let's go to the Nigeria News Direct. News Direct says banks risk CBN sanctions over failure to refund ATMs dispense errors in 48 hours. Banks to clear backlog of ATM refunds within 1 week. All that on the front page of News Direct. The Nation newspaper is next now, and it says federal government hands over COVID-19 battle to states. All right, and Buhari's decision on schools, worship centers expected. 20 local government areas account for 60% of the cases. All right, that's the Nation newspaper. The Vanguard is the next one now. And Vanguard says, I belong to everybody, I belong to nobody. Belong to all of us, Colonel Umar writes Buhari, and says president's actions will bring ruin, destruction to the nation. And adds it's no surprise. Enthusiasm for Buhari's 5th anniversary celebration not shared by segments of the public. That's all you see on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. All right, joining me via Skype now is public affairs analyst Dikpo Oyewole. He's joining me right now. Dikpo, it's good to have you join me right now.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. I'd like us to look at the story. I'd like us to look at the story on the front page of the Daily Times. Will Nigeria legalize cannabis? And it says medical cannabis market worth $3.7 billion annually. And the NDLEA is reminding Nigerians that no matter how you see it, for now it is illegal to possess cannabis. Now, if you cast your mind back sometime, I think about 2 years ago, Zimbabwe legalized cannabis, especially the medical one. The countries of the world are looking that way as a way of harnessing the positive use to it. During the last election, this also came on the front burner, where in fact, the governor was saying that cannabis should be legalized in Nigeria so that they can get the best out of it. What do you say?
Okay, well, I think for now, like the NDLA said, I'm not sure it will be legalized for now, but sometime in the near future, it may be legalized, because in the end, we may need to be forced to move with the times and look at it as an alternate source of revenue. Like you said, the global market for medical cannabis is over $3 billion, close to $4 billion. So the question now is Nigeria interested in playing in that space so that we can get parts of that revenue? Okay, because we have states in Nigeria where it grows by itself. I mean, it just exists. The governor you were talking about, I believe, was the governor of Ondo State, when he was saying that, okay, part of his campaign, that medical cannabis was going to be legalized in Nigeria, and then a lot of people said it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't fit for our culture. It wasn't fit for our environment. Yes, so I think sometime in the near future we may be forced to legalize it, but As of today, it will not happen. Probably in the next election cycle. So I think that that may be one of the talking points that we will be looking at in the next election cycle. But as of now, I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay. Now, some of the biggest concerns from churches and NGOs and other stakeholders, even traditional rulers, are the issue of drug abuse. This has been on the front burner for quite a while, and some people have argued that if you legalize it even for medical purposes and even for the good purposes and all of that, everything that comes to Nigeria is always different, and that it will grossly be abused. What do you think the NDLEA can do, if at all? We're trying to create a scenario now. For now, certainly the law against cannabis is in place in Nigeria. But if we create a scenario where it is being considered, how much more work do you think the NDLEA is going to have?
Okay, well, I believe that it would just be the NDLEA that will have a lot of work to do. The Nigerian Medical Association will have a lot of work to comprise of the doctors, comprise of the pharmacies and the pharmacists. So for me, talking about drug abuse has been there. People are still abusing drugs. And I think some statistics will tell you that right now, cannabis isn't even at the top of the drugs that are being abused right now. People are taking all sorts of things that I cannot say on air. That being said, yes, there are people who need the medical cannabis for medical reasons, genuine medical reasons. So in other climes that they've been able to get this running, of course, you do get it as a form of prescription. So you take it to a pharmacy that dispenses medical cannabis. Okay, probably have like a card, or you just have like a prescription that you take there. So definitely, it's just like every other over-the-counter medication. There are some capsules or tablets you can't take right now without having a prescription. Okay, so if it's supposed to be a medication you're supposed to take for 30 days, you can return in 10 to 15 days and say that you want to have it refilled. And definitely that will also mean that you need to have a central database for the pharmacies and the hospitals. So it's not like, excuse me, it's not like you get your last prescription somewhere around the Keja and then you go for the next one at Maryland 5 days after. There has to be a central database so that all of this can be controlled. So yes, the NDLEA, they do have a lot of work to do, but it won't just be NDLEA. Other arms of government as well need to sit up and see that we get a lot of things done. And it also still falls back to several conversations we've had on air, especially on this program, talking about having a synergetic database where we can say that, okay, this is who this person is at this particular point B, and this is who they are at point D at this particular location. So yes, we do need to have a central database so that all these things can be controlled. So we don't have people getting to abuse it by saying that, okay, you know what, I have a prescription, but they end up being drug mules or inevitably becoming drug barons themselves. So yes, there is a lot of work to be done, not just for the NDLEA, but for the medical community as well.
All right, now the NDLEA has been doing a lot over the years when it comes to fighting against illegal use of cannabis across Nigeria. But you mentioned earlier very rightly that in some places in the country, cannabis grows on its own. In fact, because the ground is so fertile. If you go to Ondo State, for instance, the parts of the forest, you have these growing by themselves. Now, when it comes to the capacity of the NDLEA to monitor, adequately monitor, because sometimes we see them carry out raids on farmlands based on tip-off and based on some of the information that come in here and there. What do you think should be done to also enhance the capacity of, or upgrade the capacity of the NDLEA?
Okay, well, I believe that they would need a lot of technology right now. So that, I mean, I've talked about the database, and the database is something that cannot be underscored right now. The NDLEA needs to have access to a lot of data, the data which will include the people who have been granted licenses to either farm, harvest, or process, or sell medical cannabis. Okay, they're like rightly said right now. You know, those, for example, if it's been legalized today, and then you have certain businesses move to those states where it seems to grow freely, then we have people who will then get to farm it. We have the same people who get to harvest it. There's a whole value chain that leads up to what you get at the dispensary. So how do we harness that data? Okay, so we don't see someone just coming around and saying, okay, you know what, I have the license to harvest cannabis or to grow cannabis, and then there's nothing to back that up, because then we will then see it being abused. All right, so there needs to be a lot of database and a lot of technology at the disposal of the NDLA and other governmental agencies that are involved. So that for the issue of data cannot be underscored right now. We need to have adequate data that is refreshed in real time, is gotten in real time, and there has to be a lot of efficiency in the system. And as much as possible, I know this may I may sound like a broken record, but as much as possible, if we can see how to eliminate a lot of human elements at play to also reduce the level of corruption within the value chain, of saying that, okay, maybe trying to get approvals or trying to pay for approvals or licenses, things should be done in an automated manner so that we try to limit all those loopholes that we get to see in other systems of government.
All right. Now, a lot of people have been talking about the issue of diversification of the economy. Now, the government has been looking for revenues anywhere they can. There has been continuous borrowing. In fact, right now, the government is planning or is mulling up an intention to borrow another $5.5 billion, as the case may be. Now, if the market, if the market worth of cannabis is about $3.7 billion annually, when it comes to generating revenue, shouldn't Nigeria expedite action to get a market share?
Yes. So like I said earlier, for us right now, it may be something that will be considered maybe in the next election cycle, or it will be something that will be considered off the backs of, I see it's being considered off the backs of two things: political expediency and economic expediency. Okay. For me, political expediency is the next election cycle, when a lot of candidates will come around and say that, okay, you know what, we have to legalize so that we can generate more revenue from it. That is the political expediency angle to it. Right now, we may get to have an economic expediency angle to it as well, because now we are broke as a nation. We're having to borrow every other month. And the question now is, if we have such a huge global market for cannabis, and we have a lot of it here, why aren't we tapping into it? So yes, the economic expediency part of it may force governments to look inward and say that, you know what, maybe let's just have this thing passed and generate revenue from it as soon as we can. So yes, it is, for me, from the side of government, in terms of the urgency they see about it, the priority. Is this a priority for them? One. Two, is it an option for them to generate revenue from? So yes, I think right now it is hard to say what they may be thinking or what they may want to do. But like I said, there are two ways to go about this: the political expediency angle and the economic expediency. For me, the economic expediency makes sense. Either we're doing it now or we're doing it in 2023 or a lot later than that, because the time is now where a lot of nations are cashing in on it, and maybe we should do that as well. But I would say that we not do it immediately, because I would want us to lay a lot of groundwork in terms of regulation, in terms of control, and to ensure that it isn't abused and the system is already airtight and in place before the regulation comes up, before the legislation comes up saying that it is being legalized. Because if it is done after the fact, to plug those holes, a lot of people will have seen various gaps that they can exploit, and for some reason they will keep those gaps open no matter what we do. So for me, I would say that if we're on the path to legalizing it, we should start right now with regulation, with a database, and the other things we need to put in place. There needs to be a whole team in place that comprises of different parts of government, different ministries, different parastatals, having to come together to put together infrastructure to ensure that it is safe and it is dispensed as it should be across the entire value chain.
Okay. Dipo Yowale, thank you so much for your time on the program this morning. Thank you.